Have you ever gotten that feeling where someone seems to be giving you signals so quiet and easy to miss that you almost second-guess yourself, yet something keeps nagging at you that there's something more going on? Now add this to the picture. That person is a married woman. Pretty intriguing, isn't it? Welcome to today's video, where we're getting into a subject that is just as fascinating as it is complicated. The signs that a married woman is into you, but working hard to keep it hidden. Before anything else, let's make one thing absolutely clear. None of this is meant to push anyone toward crossing lines or showing zero respect for someone else's commitment. This is purely about understanding how people behave and learning to pick up on the cues they sometimes put out without even being aware of it. Trust me on this one. Once you know what you're actually looking at, you'll start seeing relationships and human interactions from a completely different angle. In this video, we're going to walk through the under-the-radar signals a married woman might give off when she finds herself attracted to someone outside her marriage. We'll break down the psychology driving these behaviors and help you figure out the difference between plain old friendliness and something that feels a lot more deliberate. Stick with it, because these insights genuinely have the power to reshape how you understand the people around you. Let's set the scene first. Why would a married woman, someone who is supposed to be fully committed, end up developing feelings or showing interest in another person? Relationships are layered and complicated, and marriages are no different. Every case is its own story, but there are some recurring psychological reasons that can explain how something like this unfolds. The first thing worth looking at is emotional and psychological needs. In certain situations, a woman might be feeling emotionally empty inside her marriage. Maybe she's not getting the attention, the validation, or the genuine connection she's been craving from her partner. And this doesn't automatically mean she's miserable in her marriage either. Sometimes it's something far smaller, like feeling overlooked or taken for granted in certain moments. When someone else comes along and fills that gap, even without trying to, it can create a spark that's hard to ignore. Something important to keep in mind here is that this doesn't always come down to physical attraction. Sometimes it really is the smallest things that make the difference. Someone remembering a tiny detail she mentioned in passing, noticing that she changed her hair, or giving her a compliment that actually feels real and genuine. These little moments can hit differently, especially when they feel rare or absent in her current relationship. But this is exactly where things start getting complicated. The line separating innocent behavior from something intentional can be razor thin. Married women, just like any other human being, can be warm and engaging without any hidden agenda whatsoever. The critical thing is learning to tell the difference between someone who is naturally friendly and someone whose attention seems specifically and deliberately aimed at you. Is she like this with everyone in the room? Or does her energy seem to zero in on you in particular? Does she go out of her way to reach out or connect with you in a manner that feels thought out rather than accidental? These are the kinds of questions you need to be asking yourself, and we'll be getting into these signals in much more detail as we go. Getting a handle on this context matters a great deal, not just for making sense of the signals you might be picking up on, but for handling the whole situation with the kind of maturity and respect it deserves. The point here is never to jump to wild conclusions or start acting on every little thing you think you notice. It's about staying aware of what's actually happening in front of you. Keep going, because in the next part we're getting into the specific behaviors and body language cues that can expose what she's quietly feeling inside. Have you ever had the experience of someone's body language or the way they talk to you sending a completely different message than the words coming out of their mouth? When it comes to the quiet signals from a married woman, the hints are usually right there in front of you, just wrapped up in layers of careful concealment. Let's get into the body language and communication patterns that can point toward a married woman being into you while trying her hardest not to show it. Starting with the body language side of things. There's a reason people say actions speak louder than words, and that couldn't be more accurate when it comes to nonverbal communication. One of the most revealing signs is prolonged and repeated eye contact. If she's holding your gaze a beat longer than normal or keeps glancing over at you from across the room, that's not something that happens by accident. Eye contact is one of the oldest and most deeply rooted signals of attraction that exists. When it stretches out, it's usually someone's way of building a connection without having to say a single word out loud. The catch, though, is that she'll probably snap her eyes away fast the moment she realizes you've caught her looking. It's that back and forth glancing pattern that gives the whole thing away. Another thing to keep your eye on is subtle grooming behavior. Pay close attention to what she does physically when you're in her space. Is she running her fingers through her hair, straightening out her clothing, or lightly touching her neck? These little gestures might look like nothing, but they're actually deeply psychological. Grooming like this is usually a subconscious reaction when someone wants to put their best foot forward in front of a person they're attracted to. It's essentially her way of saying, "Notice me," without letting a single word leave her lips. Then there's how she carries herself around you. Her posture, the way she positions her body can tell you an enormous amount. If she's leaning in while you're talking, turning her body to face you directly, or keeping her arms loose and open, it's a clear sign that she's comfortable and genuinely tuned into you. On the other hand, if her whole posture shifts dramatically the moment other people walk into the space, arms crossing, body stepping back, eyes drifting away, it could be a signal that she's actively working to keep her feelings from showing. Body language tends to be a game of contrast, so what you want to watch for are the shifts and changes, but body language is only one piece of the puzzle. The way she communicates with you tells just as much of the story, if not more. When operational for hemmenu the story called Zapeo, motividutain, that means higher farmendofferdeverenst. Married woman is genuinely interested in you. Her conversations tend to take on a noticeably different quality, something deeper and more personal than you'd expect. She might start going much further in conversations than the situation actually calls for. You ask her something simple, and suddenly it turns into a whole detailed story about her life, her perspective, or even the things she's been struggling with. This isn't just idle chatter, it's about forming a real connection. When she's going out of her way to keep conversations going, or share more than she needs to, it's a sign that she genuinely enjoys having you around, and cares about holding your attention. Another very telling clue is how much she remembers about you. Did you casually mention your favorite coffee weeks ago, and now she's casually bringing it up out of nowhere? Does she somehow know your schedule, or recall something small that you honestly forgot you even told her? That's not coincidence. When someone is genuinely interested in another person, they pay attention on a whole different level, often picking up on things that person doesn't even realize they shared. It's her quiet way of showing that the little things about you actually matter to her. And then there are the compliments. Most people throw out compliments here and there, just to be polite, or make someone feel good. But when they start going deeper than the surface level, they start carrying a very different kind of weight. Something like, "You're so funny," or "You're genuinely really smart," might sound perfectly innocent on its own, but when the right tone and the right context are layered on top of it, it starts meaning something else entirely, especially when she's complimenting things that go beyond what's obvious. Things like your personality, your way of thinking, or the effort you put into something. That's her way of telling you she sees something in you that stands out. What makes these communication patterns really worth paying attention to isn't just what she's saying, but the way she's saying it. There's a particular quality of genuine interest, warmth and engagement underneath it all that's almost impossible to fake convincingly. If the way she speaks to you consistently leaves you feeling seen or valued in a way that seems different from ordinary friendly conversation, pay attention to that feeling. There's a decent chance it's more than it appears to be on the surface. So what's the big picture here? Whether it's coming through in her body language or in the way she talks to you, the signs are almost always subtle, but they're absolutely there for anyone who knows where to look for them. And as we move forward, there's even more to get into when it comes to decoding everything she's quietly putting out. Keep reading. Let's get into one of the clearest giveaways of hidden attraction, the sheer effort she puts in just to be around you. When a married woman has feelings for you, but is doing everything she can to keep them buried, her actions will often end up betraying her intentions without her even realizing it. One of the most obvious signs of this is when she starts manufacturing reasons to end up in the same space as you. Maybe she starts showing up at meetings she would never normally bother attending, or she somehow manages to walk past your area multiple times throughout the day, or she starts inserting herself into group activities that you happen to be part of. These so-called coincidences are very rarely actually coincidental. They're low-key strategies to get physically closer to you, even when she's not ready to make any kind of direct move. Another thing you might start noticing is a sudden and very convenient interest in the same things you're into. Say you're really into hiking, and all of a sudden she's asking you for trail recommendations, or she's joined a hiking group she's never once mentioned having any interest in before. Or maybe you're passionate about a particular book or show, and out of nowhere she's reading it, or bringing it up in conversation like it's something she's always been curious about. This kind of newly discovered interest isn't really about curiosity. It's about building shared ground and creating a natural reason to bond without making her actual intentions obvious. If you start seeing these patterns repeat themselves, they're probably not just friendly gestures. They're most likely her way of staying close while trying to keep her feelings from completely taking over. But here's where it gets even more layered and complicated. When she's working to hide what she feels, you'll start picking up on some very specific hesitations and contradictions in how she behaves, starting with how she acts when other people are around. In group settings, she might suddenly seem way more reserved, or act as though you barely register on her radar. This isn't her being genuinely indifferent to you. It's usually a very deliberate choice to avoid drawing any attention to the dynamic between you two. She doesn't want anyone else in the room picking up on what she's feeling, so she overcorrects by creating distance to make sure nothing looks suspicious. And here's the irony, that avoidance can end up being just as revealing as the moments when she's openly engaging with you. Then there's the pattern of cutting conversations short. The moment someone else enters the picture. Picture this. You two are talking. The energy between you feels easy and natural and real. Then someone else walks over, and almost instantly, she becomes noticeably cooler, or just abruptly wraps up the conversation and steps away. That sudden switch isn't random at all. It's almost certainly her panicking about how things might look to whoever just walked in. Pulling back like that is her defense mechanism, a way of keeping her feelings shielded from outside observation. What makes these hesitations so noticeable is the contrast they create. In private or one-on-one moments, she can be completely open, warm and present. But in public, that dramatic shift in her whole demeanor reveals a tension she's clearly wrestling with. It's like she's trying to walk a tightrope between wanting to connect with you and needing to keep up the appearance of everything being completely normal. These signals are usually accompanied by a mix of visible nervousness and a kind of over-the-top overcompensation. She might swing into being strangely formal with you in front of others, or she might redirect her focus entirely onto everyone else in the group to deflect. Either way, her behavior has much less to do with genuine disinterest and everything to do with managing a very delicate line she's trying not to fall off of. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's attitude toward you feels completely unpredictable? Totally warm and open one day, then oddly cold and distant the very next? That's what mixed signals look like up close. And it's one of the most textbook signs of someone who is battling emotions they're desperately trying to suppress. When a married woman has feelings for you, but is committed to keeping them under wraps, you might notice her being light and engaging and playful one moment, then pulling back entirely the next. One day she's laughing at everything you say and finding reasons to start conversations. The next day she can barely make eye contact with you. These back and forth shifts almost always come from an internal war she's fighting. Part of her is genuinely drawn to you, the other part is being held in check by guilt or by the fear of being found out. This behavioral pattern can also shift based on who's around. When it's just the two of you, she might be relaxed and completely herself. The second anyone else steps into the frame, she goes distant or even noticeably awkward. These mixed signals are her attempt to hold her emotions in balance while keeping everything that's happening inside her hidden from view. The most important thing to understand about her inconsistency is that it isn't random or meaningless. It's her protective mechanism at work, even while she's still trying to navigate whatever it is she feels when she's with you. On top of all that, no matter how many signals are stacking up, she will almost certainly never directly acknowledge what she's feeling. The lingering looks, the conversations that go deeper than they need to, the subtle efforts to be wherever you are. Even with all of that in play, she will avoid ever putting words to it out loud. And the reason is straightforward. Actually saying it makes it real. It crosses a line she's not ready or willing to step over. That refusal to ever confirm anything out loud doesn't mean her behavior is random or unintentional. It just shines a light on the conflict happening inside her. If you ever bring it up directly, she'll probably deflect, laugh it off, or flat out deny it. Her entire strategy is to keep things just vague enough that she can avoid being held accountable while still holding on to the connection. So, what do you actually do if you find yourself in the middle of all this? The answer starts with one word: respect. No matter how loud the signals get, this person is married. Her marriage is a real commitment, and stepping over that line carries consequences that go far beyond what either of you might be thinking about in the moment. Take a breath and zoom out. Is chasing this connection genuinely worth the damage it could do to her, to the people around her, and to yourself? Respect for her boundaries, and for the reality of her marriage, isn't something that's up for negotiation. Beyond that, get honest about the ethical side of it. Ask yourself whether any of this actually lines up with who you are and what you stand for. It's easy to get swept up in a moment, but thinking long-term is what separates a passing feeling from a real decision. Sometimes the most genuinely respectful thing you can do is step back from the situation entirely. You also need to take an honest look at your own role in the dynamic. Are you even unintentionally giving her signals back? Sometimes something as innocent as a smile or a throwaway compliment gets read as more than it was meant to be. Reflect honestly on your own behavior. Are you setting the right kind of tone? Or could something you're doing be adding fuel to the situation? If there's a chance you've been contributing to it, pull back, not in a harsh or cold way, but gracefully. Ease up on the one-on-one time. Dial back the overly personal conversations and establish clearer boundaries in a way that's kind but leaves no room for misinterpretation. And if the situation starts making you genuinely uncomfortable or starts messing with your peace of mind, don't be afraid to address it, but do it with some tact. You don't have to sit her down and make it a whole dramatic conversation about her feelings. Instead, just focus on making your own limits clear. Something simple like saying, "I value the way we interact, but I think keeping things professional makes sense for both of us," gets the message across without blowing anything up unnecessarily. By holding respect for her boundaries, being honest about your own part in things, and standing firm in your own values, you can move through this whole situation with both integrity and grace. Your choices in moments like these matter just as much as hers. So what have we actually covered here? The quiet signs of attraction from a married woman tend to show up in her body language, in the way she talks to you, and in the effort she makes to keep finding herself near you. Whether it's eye contact that lingers a moment too long, remembering small details about your life that most people would forget, or consistently engineering ways to be in your space, these signals often say more than any words ever could. But the mixed signals and the way she shuts down in public are equally important pieces of the picture because they point directly to an internal conflict that deserves to be taken seriously and never ignored. The single most important thing to walk away with here is awareness. Noticing these behaviors is not the same thing as acting on them. It's about genuinely understanding the dynamics at play and honoring the boundaries that exist around her relationship. Real connections, whether they're romantic or purely platonic, are built on a foundation of trust, integrity, and respect. Stay grounded in your values, keep the complications at a distance, and put your energy into building the kinds of relationships that are actually meaningful and healthy. As we close this out, keep this in mind. Self-awareness is everything when you're navigating complicated interpersonal dynamics. Behaving ethically and keeping boundaries intact isn't just about protecting the other person. It's about protecting yourself too. If you got something valuable out of today's video, go ahead and like it, share it, and subscribe for more content diving into human behavior and the complexity of relationships. And stay tuned because there's a lot more eye-opening stuff on the way. See you in the next